We're back live. We're doing the Week 6 recap. Last week we had the Week 5 preview and the Week 5 recap and the Week 6 preview. This week, in my picks, I'm pretty sure I cooked. I remember all my ticks, and I'm pretty sure I was cooking. I really thought Drake May was going to do pretty good, and he played great. He played phenomenally. I was very excited to watch the Ravens and the Commanders play. However, it wasn't like on my local station, so I had to go back and rewatch everything. I didn't watch a whole lot of football yesterday, actually. I thought the games that I was watching were a little bit boring. I was watching a little bit of the Chargers-Broncos. What else was on? The Packers-Cardinals game. That was a little bit boring. And then there was another game that was the Bucks and the Saints. I was watching the Bucks and Saints, which was pretty good in the first half, but in the second half, the Bucks kind of ran away with that one. So we'll get into it now. We'll talk about all of our picks and why I picked them and why they won or lost. So, alrighty. Oh, hello. Maybe we can work here. Oh, what's going on, brother? My mouse is a little buggy. All right, there we go. Gosh, my cord's all wrapped up or whatever. So, all right. Yeah, as you can see, 12-1 this week. Is that not phenomenal or what? I feel like that's awesome. I don't know, man. Imagine if I went 13-0. That could be a crazy parlay. What went wrong? Cardinals over the Packers. Dang. Other than that, though, 100%, man. And I just did that one just for the sake of, obviously, picking the underdog, and Packers had struggled versus the Rams, but I guess it didn't really matter in this one, so. All right, so first up, I picked the 49ers to beat the Seahawks. I felt like the Seahawks have been pretty bad in the trenches recently. They've been pretty injured to their share, right? So they've had a lot of O-line injuries. They have their third right tackle in. I think Anthony Bradford went down. And then obviously their front seven has been so banged up. But on top of that, Tariq Woolen was not going to be playing in this one. And then Trey Brown did go down in this game. So the Seahawks were very thin in the secondary. They were very, very thin in the trenches. And just like the last few weeks, the 49ers were able to run all over the Seahawks, which has been a theme with the Seahawks defense. That 5 out of their 6 draft picks in the last year, they were all within the trenches, and they needed that. What's up, brother? Yeah. Obviously, you can tell they just don't have the personnel to go out and win games against teams like the 49ers. And the 49ers were able to exploit that in this one, right? Even with like Jordan Mason going down, he was like able to return, but Isaac Orendo, a guy that I really liked coming out of, I think it was Louisville. I'm pretty sure he was also Jonathan Taylor's backup, right, at Wisconsin. He was in college for a while, but he just never got the touches really to show it. But he was very quick and elusive, and like that outside zone scheme that the 49ers run was like a perfect fit for him. And he went off versus the Seahawks. He had like 90 yards on 9 carries, right? So he did have that one really long run, and he looked really good. Jordan Mason looked really good when he was healthy. And the 49ers played really, really good offensively, even getting like stopped in the red zone a few times. Like they still put up 36 points. So 49ers are back. I hope nobody overreacted against their couple losses the last few weeks. And now they are first place in the division, I think. Yes, they are. They should be first now. So, next up, I picked the Bears to beat the Jags in London. I would not be very shocked if Doug Peterson is fired today or tomorrow. I've been thinking he was going to be fired for the last couple weeks now, and it hasn't happened quite yet. But maybe they will do an offensive coordinator change. Who knows? I don't exactly know what they think is going to be the right fit. But Caleb Williams has arrived. He's back. Not back. I guess he's here. He's arrived. He played amazing football in this one, and the offensive line is just so atrocious too. Like that interior offensive line has been so bad this entire year, and that's been obviously a huge issue. I don't want to give him all the excuses in the world because out of all the rookie quarterbacks, he is in the best situation. But now that he's getting a more of a rhythm, he's getting more chemistry with his teammates. And I just unplugged my monitor, so that's really awesome. Um, yeah, I feel like now that he's gotten a lot more reps with his team, he's gotten more rhythm. He's kind of in the groove of everything. He's been a lot more accurate. He's been on time. He's been very poised in the pocket, and his like scrambling ability is just out of the world, right? So it's really good. And the Bears are looking really awesome. The NFC North as a whole is really awesome right now. Like every team, like what the Bears are the worst team and they're 4-2. So NFC North is going to be competitive, man, and the Bears are looking like a playoff team. That defense is really good. The Jags defense is not, though. Tyson Campbell, I don't think, was playing in this one. And the only person that really looked like he was doing much was Josh Allen. So Josh Hines Allen now. So Jags need a little bit of help defensively. They weren't able to. They're kind of like in that Bengals situation where they lost some guys in free agency and they haven't been able to recuperate throughout their drafts, right? You just got to draft well, and that's not something the Jaguars organization has been able to do. Yes, they drafted Trevor Lawrence, but that was like clear-cut number one quarterback. You have to draft him, and you were granted the number one pick. So it's like, obviously, outside of the Trevor Lawrence pick, I don't think they've really drafted very well. I mean, Josh Allen's a dog. But this is historically not a great franchise, and they don't make the right decisions, and they haven't so far, and they're just not able to stack anything up offensively or defensively to win games against teams like the Bears and the Bills and whatnot, right? So they're just continuing on this perpetual loss streak, right? Losing streak. Where do I rank? 170,000. All right, it's not too bad. Maybe I need to get the chat in the group. I think that'd be pretty sick. Actually, yeah, I think I'll link. Ooh, I think I'd have to make a new one. Right, I think I'd have to make a new one, but that's okay. So anyway. On to the Bucks and the Saints. Man, I was rooting for Spencer Rattler in this one. I wanted Spencer Rattler to cook so badly, dude. Especially just with everything that he's kind of gone through in a way with, his whole high school little deal and then Oklahoma and Caleb Williams and then transferring to South Carolina. And it looked really good in the first half, but the Bucks got things rolling. I will like to note, though, Baker Mayfield throwing the ball down the field is not very pretty, man. I think he threw 2 picks yesterday that were farther than 10 yards. He was like 1 for 11 or 1 for 12. Their run game looked awesome. Sean Tucker, the Syracuse legend, he played awesome. I don't know if we got any Sean Tucker tweets. If anybody knows if Sean Tucker was on Twitter and active the other day, I'd love to know because he balled out, right? He was #pleased, I would say. And Bucky Irving also played really good. Their run game looked a lot better without Rachaad White. So I guess that was a little refreshing for Bucks fans. I had Chris Godwin on my fantasy team, so it was awesome to see what he did. He had like 12 catches for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. But it was just kind of all hero plays all around the field, right? Sean Tucker took a long one. Bucky Irving took a long one. Godwin had a long one. And the Saints in the second half didn't get anything going offensively, right? So the Bucks were able to run away with this one in wide margin, which I think in my preview I picked the Saints to beat the Bucks, but I didn't know that Derek Carr was going to be injured, and then Chris Olave got injured as well. So I did go back and I picked the Bucks just because I was like, yeah, Saints aren't going to win with Rattler, and that's kind of what happened in here. Although I was rooting for him, so Saints looking like the division's going to slip from them. I did pick them to win the division. It looks like it might be the Falcons, I think. I think it might be the Falcons, which it was a close one. 18-point game. Next up, I picked the Eagles to beat the Browns, which this one was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. The Eagles got Smitty and A.J. Brown back, and A.J. Brown was balling. The clowns. They are the clowns, right? It is October, right? So the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson cannot do anything offensively. And I think it's time to put Jameson Winston in. It's like every single time you see every single time you see, I need a new chair, man. Every single time you see Watson drop back to pass, you just always think it's going to either be like an interception or a sack or something weird's going to happen, right? Fumble, something. And he's just not able to generate enough offense. And I think with Jameson, he might have the same amount of turnover-worthy plays. But what I've been saying all season and off season is the same thing with Joe Flacco was, yeah, you might have your turnover-worthy plays, but with this defense, that's okay. You just need to be able to generate some offense. And if they were able to score a touchdown or two offensively, maybe they would have been able to win this one. I don't think Nick Chubb was active, but I don't think he played, if I'm not mistaken. He is activated. I think he is set to play this week. So that's exciting. But the Eagles' terrible defense didn't really matter because they were playing an even worse offense. And Jalen Hurts and Saquon and all those offensive weapons were able to do just enough to beat the Browns. So, and that's kind of what I thought was going to happen, right? Like, Watson just can't generate enough. I don't think it's all his fault. I don't think the O-line's very good. Jerome Ford went down in this one, so it was also like you're not running the ball well, and you can't really do much in pass protection. And then there's not a lot of guys getting a whole lot of separation. But then when they are, they're not getting the ball. So a lot of things you need to figure out there. So next up, I was very excited about this one. Commanders, Ravens. Ravens' run game is legit. Lamar Jackson is awesome. The defense is awesome. But Jaden Daniels is also awesome. Jaden Daniels had a phenomenal game. I really like the play calling. However, when they are put up against a tougher defense, as you saw this weekend versus the Ravens, they didn't have quite enough juice. So I think this team might just miss the playoffs. I'm maybe a little wish casting because I want the Seahawks to make the playoffs, obviously. But clearly they're not like the most fantastic defensive team. They're not the best in pass protection. And they don't quite have all the offensive weapons to win the division, I don't think, quite yet. However, if they're able to stack a couple draft picks, I think that'd be fantastic, no? I mean, there's a bunch of wide receivers in this upcoming draft that I like, that I think the Commanders should take. Ooh, or what about what about Genty, man? What about Genty on I can't go a podcast without talking about Ashton Genty, right, as a Boise State fan. What about Genty on the Commanders with Jaden Daniels? Would that not be the nastiest duo in the backfield in the NFL? Along with, I guess, Lamar and Derrick Henry, right? Which were fantastic in this one. Derrick Henry's looking great. Lamar's looking like an MVP. Which, for you Ravens fans out there, Garrett, Lamar is not winning the MVP. I don't care how crazy. He would have to have, like, the craziest season of all time. For an MVP to win it, like, twice in a row with voter fatigue, I just can't see it happening. Maybe. But right now he is definitely the MVP frontrunner. But also he hasn't really stacked a bunch of performances against great defenses yet. So I'd like to see that happen. And the Ravens are looking like the best team. One of the best teams in the AFC. We'll get into who I think is the best team in the AFC in a minute. But yeah, Commanders are legit. Jaden Daniels is legit. I had him as my QB3. He's looking like QB1 right now, but I mean, I would still rather have Caleb and Drake May at this point. I think their ceilings are higher. I think, obviously, maybe I don't know. I don't want to be a Jaden Daniels hater, and I don't want to like be defending all my draft takes because you never really know. And all the problems that Jaden Daniels really had that we like didn't really see was like throwing over the middle of the field and being super accurate there, and then the injuries and how his pocket presence was going to be against, defenses, and not having like a top 5 O-line, right? Which like LSU has like the best offensive line in college football. They're going to have 2 dudes that are taken in the top 20 next year. So, and he's definitely proved that he's a guy that it doesn't really matter, right? He can throw over the middle of the field, but he's doing everything else really well as well. So it's great to see him do that, but it's also really good to see Drake May play great in his debut, which I think he had the best debut out of any of the rookie quarterbacks. We'll get into that, though, in a minute. So next up, I picked the Cardinals to beat the Packers. I felt like the Packers really struggled the last week, and I kind of felt like the Cardinals were due for a win. I was really hoping for a big Marvin Harrison Jr. game with, like Trey McBride and Michael Wilson being back on the field and James Conner. I felt like the Packers have struggled in like rushing the passer, but they're leading the NFL in takeaways, and they had a couple takeaways in this one, right? I think Kyler threw a pick and fumbled the ball, so not a totally clean game by the Cardinals, just a few mistakes there that you gotta fix up, and the Packers are pretty awesome. Jordan Love's awesome. They have so many wide receivers that can just make plays, and Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave as well in the tight end group that can make plays, and Jacobs. There's just a lot of guys there. Maybe they're not the best in their position, but they're definitely very formidable and guys that you'd want on your team, and they all complement each other very well. Jaden Reed had a touchdown. Watson had a touchdown. Dobbs had a touchdown, right? Like, everybody's getting touchdowns, and that's what you need to see to win. The defense keeps getting takeaways and keeps playing well on the football. They're going to keep winning games, and that's what they did here versus the Cardinals. So, good win by the Packers, and this was the one game I picked incorrectly. So, it was a little bit of an easier week. There was some bye weeks this week, and it's a lot easier now to tell. Like, once we're getting through the season, we're a quarter down, getting into the second quarter of the season. So, next up we have the Colts versus the Titans. I was expecting Anthony Richardson and JT to play, and Michael Pittman, which Michael Pittman did play, and he played pretty well. Titans are pretty bad. Will Levis isn't good. They're going to be drafting a quarterback, I think, this year, which hopefully I can get another stream in this week. I kind of want to do another mock draft, so that'd be fun to do. Next up, not next up, I'm sorry. I'm very eager to talk about this Texans-Patriots game. This was like my favorite game this weekend, so. But yeah, the Colts defense looked really good. I thought the Titans defense looked really good, but it was like a Will Levis versus Joe Flacco matchup, so I kind of took the team anyway with the better weapons and the better defense, and that's what came out on top here, right? Better play caller as well, I think. Shane Steichen had a lot of gutsy play calls that won them this game, actually. So, good game by the Colts, good game by Flacco, good game by Sermon and their defense as well. So, Will Levis is probably not going to be the starting long-term quarterback, and that's something that we've been able to see throughout the last couple of weeks. So, he's probably not your long-term option. He might not be there next year or the year after. We'll see. But yeah, man. Next up was the Texans and the Patriots, and I want to start out with the Patriots. Drake May is totally awesome, dude. He's totally QB2. He definitely needs to clean up some things. He definitely needs a lot of reps. He's only 21, though, guys. Like, Jaden Daniels is 24. Drake May is 21. Caleb Williams is 21. They're a lot younger than all of these other quarterbacks that were taken around them, right? So, well, I guess J.J. McCarthy was also very young, but he's injured for the season, so whatever. The Patriots O-line is pretty horrible, and the receivers aren't all the way there yet. And the defense is a piece away, a two away from being like top 5, right? But they're awesome. Christian Gonzalez got a little cooked versus Diggs in this one. Diggs had a great performance on Christian Gonzalez, and Tank Nell had a couple catches against Christian Gonzalez as well, who didn't have his best matchup. But Jabril Peppers was out on this one. I don't know how long he's going to be out for. I don't know exactly the extent of the situation there, but when they're fully healthy and when they got all their guys, this defense is a lot better. So I think this could have been a lot closer of a game, but they need a lot of help offensively on the O-line particularly, and the wide receiver room. So I think I'd like to see them draft Will Campbell or any other offensive lineman in this upcoming draft. I did really want them to draft like McMillan or Burden, or even Travis Hunter would be cool on this team. Imagine Travis Hunter and Christian Gonzalez, and then have him play like wide receiver as well. I think that'd be kind of fun to see. But I think if you give Drake May more time in the pocket, he's going to be able to make plays. He has such a strong arm, and when he's accurate, he's super accurate. Like, his accuracy can be through the roof. However, it is a little inconsistent. Like, he did absolutely airmail like a completely terrible out route in the first quarter, right? Um, I think it was like a boot action to the left, so it was like off his back foot, and he's rolling to the left, and he throws the out route and just totally like sailed it behind and over his wide receiver, and it was intercepted. And the other interception was like batted at the D line on a screen play that like had the worst bounce like you could ever ask for, right? And but other than that, man, he had some wicked throws. His pocket presence is really good. You'd you really like him to clean up the footwork and like him to clean up the accuracy. And once he does that, it's kind of, I think, like Josh Allen, like he's going to be elite, man. Let him develop. Get him an offensive line. Get him Devontae Adams, dude. I'm calling for it, man. Trade for Adams. Draft some O linemen. Maybe Adams wouldn't be the perfect take because he's getting a little old and he's going to be very expensive next year. And maybe that's just opening the window or closing the window too soon. You'd almost want somebody a little bit younger, like Ayuk would have been perfect. But it is what it is. You need to draft some wide receivers. I think this wide receiver class is pretty deep, so maybe you can get another second round guy like you did with Polk, and then draft an O lineman. But the O line is atrocious, and the run game was really bad in this one. So fix up the O line and the wide receiver core, and Drake May is going to be spectacular. However, the Texans are the best team in the AFC, and I don't think anybody can change my mind. Without Nico Collins, I mean, this team just blew out the Patriots. Yes, it was Drake May's first start, but this is a very good defense. And Joe Mixon is awesome, and the O-line is awesome, and CJ Stroud is spectacular. And their coaching and their play calling is pretty good, right? So this is my Super Bowl favorite, I think. It hasn't been too far ago that a second-year starting quarterback, won the Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. So I don't think it's totally impossible. I think C.J. Stroud is spectacular. I think the wide receiver core, once they're healthy, fully healthy together, like, has this trio played fully healthy yet, except for week one, like in the first half, like Tank Dell got injured, right? So once this team is fully supercharged up, man, they add that last Thanos ring in, they're going to be adding a ring with their finger, I think, come February. This team is awesome. Their defense is awesome. So, next up, Steelers Raiders. This wasn't the most spectacular game. I would love to see the Steelers use Fields a little bit more in the run game. I'd love to see some like quarterback power, maybe some pin pull, just a whole lot of things that I think you can do with this run game that can be so interesting. Like imagine Fields, Warren, and Najee lined up back there. I think that would be super fun. Just get your best 11, man. Like that's what's really important. And I don't think they're totally doing that yet. However, the Raiders are not a good football team. They had some injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and Devontae Adams isn't playing, so that was a really big factor. But also, like the quarterback situation isn't very good, right? So the Raiders need to fix up the quarterback, the running game, the O line, and the defense is just like kind of iffy. Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins are really awesome, but outside of that, it's like, Carl Nassib's cool. Jack Jones is cool. There's some cool pieces there, right? But is it all the way there yet? I don't think so. So, Steelers won this game. I thought they were going to dominate on the ground, and they did. So, next up, Chargers Broncos. They were up 20-0 at one point, and Bo Nix and the Broncos started to come back. Bo Nix is just kind of an awesome football guy, and I did talk about that in the last game. He's kind of fun to watch because he's very resilient, and that was like one of his big things, right? So he's very calm, he's cool, and he's just a winner. He wants to win, right? So and that defense is very spectacular. However, the Chargers and the run game was really good, and you had Herbert, and the O-line looked really good, so the Chargers were able to squeeze out a win versus the Broncos, although they were up 20-0, right? So, next up, Falcons over the Panthers. Panthers are like the worst team in football, right? So, or at least one of them. There's not a whole lot to say about this one. I thought Cousins looked really good. Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan had a big day as well. So, defense needs a little bit of work. Need a little bit of edge rushers, I think, there. Maybe that would have been something you'd like to address in the draft, but everybody's talked about that so much now that I don't feel the need to bring that up, right? So Falcons continue to roll, and they win against the Panthers here. I picked the Lions in this win versus the Cowboys, who absolutely blew out the Cowboys. I just thought the Cowboys weren't going to be able to run the ball against the Lions. I thought there was just such a big trench differential. The Lions' O-line was so much better than the Cowboys' D-line, I thought. I don't think they were fully healthy, the Cowboys on the defensive line, but the Lions' O-line looked fantastic. The run game looked fantastic, and Jared Goff looked awesome, man. He's continuing to roll, and the Lions look awesome. I think the Lions versus the Texans in the Super Bowl would be awesome. Yes. Dude, the Lions were awesome, man. Lions versus Texans would be a great Super Bowl. The O-line's fantastic. The D-line's fantastic. Aiden Hutchinson did go down, but the secondary's getting a lot better. They're looking a lot smoother. Terrion Arnold, who looked a little rough at the beginning of the season, looked a lot better in this one. I felt like he was a lot better in man coverage. I'd have to wait and see all the PFF grades and charting and whatnot, but I have not looked at any of the advanced analytics. I don't know if any of that stuff's come out yet, but the Lions are awesome, and they're continuing to roll, and the Cowboys are continuing to fall, right? So, and next up was the last matchup was the Bengals versus the Giants. And the Bengals defense looked a little bit better in this one, but they were playing Daniel Jones, who just can't have. I know, Hutch out for the season, so rough. I think you guys should trade for Clowney or Agba from Dolphins and the Panthers, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Lions and how they try to replace Hutch if that happens. Bengals offense wasn't lights out, but the Giants defense is a lot better than I think maybe people give them credit for. I think they're at least a top 15 defense. I don't exactly know where they're standing in DVOA and EPA per play, but they're looking fun, and they're a feisty team. They're a well-coached team, but obviously, like, the quarterback situation isn't great. They had injuries as well. Neighbors and Singletary were out, but Tyrone Tracy's pretty good too. So I think they're like a couple years away. They just need a quarterback. I think they're headed in the right direction. So I wouldn't panic if I were a Giants fan. And then next up, I picked the Bills to beat the Jets, or the Jets actually to beat the Bills. Maybe I switch it to the Bills, man. I only picked the Jets because of the interim head coach luck. So I think I'm gonna pick the Bills. I'm gonna switch it to the Bills. The Bills are the better team. Their defense is like not as good as the Jets, but their offense is nah. I'm just gonna take the Jets. I'm just gonna keep the Jets, man. I'll lock in the Jets, man, for 13-1. 13-1, man. I'm on fire. So I'm gonna be 13-1. This was a good stream. Quick little 30 minutes. We'll be back tomorrow so we can do the Week 7 preview. We got a lot of interesting matchups. Maybe we'll go through that. This will be a fun game, I guess. Kind of a toilet bowl game. You will see me picking the Patriots, by the way. This is going to be a fun game as well. I think two very explosive offenses. Woohoo! Packers-Texans is going to be a great game. Vikings-Lions is going to be an awesome game. I got to make sure to watch that one. Chiefs-49ers. Ravens-Bucks. There's not a whole lot of games next week. How many matchups are there? I'm not going to count. All right. Is there 15? I think there's 15. All right. Thank you guys for watching. If you are watching this on YouTube, I did this live on Twitch, so make sure to go check me out there. It's normally in the link in the description. So we'll be back live again tomorrow night, Tuesday, and then maybe later again this week talking about the NFL draft, talking about some college football, and talking about some of my favorite college prospects. So you guys have a great night, and thank you for